Yogami Navainami Kavainami Kalashtami Kaveshashnamala Shivainami Odakavina.
So the subject I chose for today is pretty obvious in a way because I'm coming out of a retreat of some sorts, and so it's good to share our experiences there. And at the same time also a little bit go deeper into another subject which I believe is really important, how to deal with whatever is inside us which we don't like so much, because I see in coaching calls and online and everywhere, I see a lot of misunderstanding on that level, this so-called dark night of the soul, which is an old Roman Catholic idea really, but it seems to have gained new popularity. So yeah, I see people talking about it, and they come to me talking about it, and they're complaining about their awakening, that it's so very terrible. And I'm sorry, I don't agree. Awakening is not something very terrible. It's something very beautiful. And I'm not saying there's no difficulties. There's no, it's not all love and light and, all these things. But the basic thing of awakening is that you awaken to your divine self. Not that you start understanding how terrible your ego is and how much stuff is there inside of you that's going to need work. And in any case, that work which is needed is going to happen from the self, not from the ego. That is the basic mistake that is being made. The ego will always be stuck whenever it goes there, in those dark corners of the subconscious, where, I don't know, childhood trauma or other stuff are hidden. This is not for the ego to do. This is, okay, if there is some really like traumatic experiences that have been totally suppressed in the subconscious, then yeah, sure, some work is needed to bring it out, to bring it to the light, and to kind of be able then to work with it. But the main thing is to let the light shine on it, and to let the light shine, first you have to develop it. First you have to make it grow, first you have to make it strong. And so that also has been my own approach to this retreat that I was doing. And when I say retreat, I have to specify that I had 3 months, or actually gradually I chose to have 3 months of retreat. But the first month was quite a different retreat from the second 2 months. The second 2 months I really had to do some work. I really started coaching, healing from distance again quite a lot. So that changed things. But the first month I did not see anybody. I did not go on social media. I did not, get involved with people in general. But I also did not get involved with those things that were still troubling me. And that's the main point that I want to make. The main thing that I tried to do in that first month, and I'm not saying it was 100% successful, but the first thing I was trying to do was to stay out of negative or unhappy emotions. To first fully devote myself to the self, devote myself to the great feelings that come from the self, and let these grow, and do everything that I knew how to do to make them grow, so that then, feeling very strong and positive and light and happy, then I could also look at some of the things, which had been bothering me before, and where I felt it was the right time to, work with it, go into it, resolve some of it. But the first month, I totally refused to think about any problem that I had. I refused to think about the past. I refused to think about the future. Both were difficult subjects in a way, because of some of the changes that I made, and some of the changes also that happened to me. So I totally left that out and just focus on now. What am I doing now? And to create a positive energy now. And so in that way, things could really happen. No? And many of those problems which I found in myself afterwards and which needed some work were very easily then resolved just by letting that light shine on it and not be, digging it up and kind of getting totally overwhelmed by it. These things, this darkness, these problems, these attachments, they are there and they seem very powerful, but in front of the light, they are not powerful at all. So both in deep meditation and then in contemplation, later I could really bring them forward and really look at them. And in that way, at least some of them, they would quite easily dissolve and some not. And those, they have to wait, It's not yet the time then, no? to work on it. So this is the main thing I want to say. Whenever you feel that you are in a retreat of sorts, no? Not to go for this digging into the dark kind of idea. This is definitely not the first thing to do. This may be the second thing to do. This may be something on which you spend a little bit of your time every day. Yes, that is possible. Like I did in the second part, in the 2 months that were left. But that's not the main thing. There's emphasis enough on the ego. Our whole life emphasis on the ego is very strong. So when then you take a retreat, please take a retreat from that ego. No? Take a retreat from those problems, take a retreat from these things. And the subject is interesting, I think, because these days many people are sort of forced into some kind of retreat, right? With these lockdowns and other effects of this pandemic. People are more at home, people are not seeing many other people, maybe they are working at home even, maybe they're not daring to come out at all. Many reasons, many different situations, not all suitable to turn into retreats, that I'm quite sure about. I mean, if you have to work at home, but the kids are also at home, and the husband or the wife is also at home, maybe it's very difficult to do any kind of retreats. But in the other cases where you feel, okay, I'm being locked up, I feel locked up, then forget about the government, forget about the politics, forget about all of that, and make use of this time to go deeper inside. And to do some kind of practice, to do some kind of retreat practice that will help you to find your inner strength, to find your inner peace, and then with that you can move forward. And when I'm talking about my retreat, it's not to say you have to do like I've been doing, because that's not how it works. We all have different situations, so we all have to make up our own mind. The reason I want to talk about it is just to explain a little bit what kind of subjects are important when we talk about doing a retreat, and how I dealt with it, okay, as one way to deal with it, and then you yourself can find out how to deal with your situation. But so going then into some more details about my retreat, that first month, as I said, was really a holiday. Not everybody is able to take a holiday these times. I understand, but well, I was able and I was very much willing, so I took a holiday. So no work at all, as I said, also no social contacts, and basically no negative thinking, no negative feeling. Whenever something would come up, and I'm not saying it didn't come up, I would let it go. Not now, next month, Now try to do something positive, something uplifting. And so those were the main things. There are other things that you can say that you can also include in a retreat in terms of, let's say, restraints. things that you stop doing, which are, you are used to doing, and which you stop doing because you feel that will help you to get closer to yourself and feel more happy. So in my case also there were some restraints like that. They actually also related to my healing practice, where to gain more connection to the healing energies, some restraints are needed, like no alcohol, things like that. So these are definitely things also to think about, and especially if some of these things are really like bad habits and bringing you in a negative attitude towards yourself, basically, then it is best that some restraint is there when you do retreat on these habits. I'm not saying you have to go, let's say, cold turkey on everything. That's again up to you, but some restraint, some limitation, so that you feel that you are at least making a move forward there are important. But I think the most important thing is not in the things that you are not going to do. It is in the things that you are going to do. This is the typical yama niyama, that we find in Ashtanga. The yamas being those things that you stop doing, okay. But the niyamas are actually much more important. And when you do a retreat, it is very important to think about it properly and to make basically a daily schedule to which you will stick. I'm not saying there cannot be some flexibility in there, but I suggest to really write it down and stick to it. And this is also because if you don't do that, there's not only the chance that some days you'll feel more lazy and you'll just not do what you were planning to do, but also because many of these things are interrelated. And I'll explain that a little bit by explaining what was my daily schedule in that first month. So I used to get up at 5:30 every day. To have a fixed hour of waking up is very important for the whole process, because then your system gets used to it and much more easily adapts to every phase of it. So getting up 5:30, and then after the usual process of getting up, I would meditate till about 8 o'clock. I basically set an alarm on my mobile, a nice chimes sound, that would a little bit make a sound around 8 o'clock. But if I felt still quite deep into my meditation, I would just continue to meditate and let it happen, however long it wanted to take. But if the alarm went and I felt, okay, anyhow, I'm not so much motivated anymore, then okay, at 8 I could stop. But before 8 I was not, let's say, allowing myself to stop. So that there I fixed myself some time for meditation in the early morning. 8 o'clock was just after sunrise. So that was really also in that way a good timing. Then I would have some breakfast and I basically have a free time. I'll say something more about that. I had some free time until 11. Free time in which also, of course, some work has to happen, like taking a shower and washing some dishes and, doing some laundry, which was all by hand there. So all these things I had to also take care. Then around 11, I start my asana pranayama practice. So there for about 1.5 hours, I would do asana pranayama practice, which honestly I am not so good at. So I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically I was hoping to gain more health, more flexibility, and with the pranayama then also improve my energy level, which was quite low because of the period which was before, which was really quite exhausting. So I really needed to do these long retentions and long exhales to build up more ojas in my system to really come to a more healthy state. Then I would start cooking around 12:30. I would start cooking. The midday meal was the main meal, which is also a question, of course. But in my case, it was very much needed to do it like that, because in the evening I would have my rituals, and before the rituals I was not allowed to eat. And after the rituals, I was then eating something, but not too much, because quite soon afterwards I had to go to sleep in order to be able to get up again at 5:30. So in that way I decided, okay, it's actually against what I'm used to. I'm used to cooking in the evening, but there I used to cook then at noon, make a very nice meal, eat it, have a little break, and then I would go in nature. No, I was there in the forest, in a cabin in the forest, many beautiful caves. Some of you have seen the pictures, and so I would roam around the place and meet some animals. Actually, many deer are there and other animals. So enjoy the nature, and then around 4:35, start preparing for the fire rituals. This preparation was about 1 hour. And then I do the fire rituals for about 2.5 hours. And so that means around 8:30 I was done with that. And then I would have something to eat. I was quite hungry by that time because it was quite cold outside to do the fire rituals. Okay, I was under a roof, but it was outside. And sometimes it was freezing, so put on lots of clothes, but still then afterwards you feel very hungry. And and then I'd have some leisure time till about 10:30, 11, then go to sleep again, wake up 5:30. But so here you see the relationship between especially food and practice. So the morning meditation, no food should be taken at all. Just a little cup of tea maybe before, but also not too much, because it again will stimulate the mind too much. So I actually limited myself to 1 cup of chai in the early morning, which is really tough for me because I'm quite a chai addict. But okay, 1 cup was enough. Then do the meditation, then have breakfast, then have some time for that breakfast to, digest before then at 11 starting the asana practice, before starting to cook and to eat the big midday meal. And then have enough time for that meal to digest before starting the rituals. And then again, after the rituals, eating something, and then having at least 2 hours for that digestion to happen. So this combination of practice and other parts of daily life, let's say, is very important, because otherwise all the time you're gonna get stuck. You're gonna think, oh yeah, I still have to do my asana, but I just eaten, so I'm not gonna do it now. No, I'm feeling too full. And then later on, then you feel, okay, now I could do it. Yeah, but it's already time to start the ritual, because if I don't start the ritual now, then the ritual will finish really late and I'll eat really late, and then I can't go to sleep early enough to be there at 5:30 in the morning. So, this schedule thing is very, very important. And you just write it down, and I wrote it down, simply in a Word file on the computer. And I'm not saying that throughout this month there were not some minor changes, to it. Sure, we can adapt, we can be flexible, but the main thing stayed there, and it was just a little bit of fine-tuning that was needed. And so in that way, I could do these practices and benefit from these practices. You can say I was doing 6-7 hours a day of actual practice. A huge variety, actually. As I said, meditation, asana, pranayama, rituals. So I did not feel like boring at all, but it was a lot of practice. And then in the free time, as I said, I was still going to say something about that. I very consciously kept that free time free. Like I didn't impose anything else on myself. I felt okay. I'm on holiday, you know. I want some freedom also. I want some fun also, to let things, you know, come up and to be able to do whatever I felt like doing at that time within those restraints. Within those restraints of not being involved with other people, and within those restraints also of not getting into any negative emotions. So whatever I would be doing during that time would be uplifting, you know? Uplifting. For example, I've been singing a lot. Some of you may have heard some recording that I was putting online from some chanting that I was doing there. So I've been doing that quite a lot, like almost daily. And that is a very good exercise on so many levels. Emotionally, it is very, very helpful to sing. It allows you to release a lot of emotion and fine-tune also your more spiritual emotion and devotion. And it's of course a very good pranayama also. No? The walking in nature is same. No? It's also very useful, very advisable. To have some walks, no, it's very good for the body, but it's also very good for the mind. No, all these soothing, natural colors, influences, sights, experiences that you have. It was autumn time there, so the colors of the leaves. I mean, you know, it was just amazing. Only that, no? All these shades of red and brown and yellow, and you know, so very, very beautiful. And I was also, yeah, this I forgot to say actually, in that part where I was doing asana pranayam, I was also doing some acupressure. Acupressure is something also very important, and I had not been, let's say, following up on that for a long time, and I could feel it when I was searching for those points. I could feel that there really was a lot of stress there. So also daily I would work on these points until by the end of that first month, actually these points were okay and no longer needed that kind of work. No? This is very important knowledge actually that also Harish Johari would teach us, to know the main points. To know what they mean, yes, is also not bad, but the main thing is to know where they are and to know what to do with them, and to work on them until they are gone. You know? And just to give you one example, which is really very practical, if you have this point here, you know, in between your thumb, and if you press there a little bit hard, and it's really painful, you know, this is something very important, because if this is very painful, it means that your system is very, very stressed, very, very weak, and this is called the point of all disease, not for no reason. No? This is really the point where if there you have a lot of pain, you should very regularly work on it. Because if that point starts really getting totally blocked, then your health will go down some way, somehow or other, very much. So just to explain a little bit, the main place, of course, to work is the feet, and there very easily you can work on, but some other points on the body are there, and on the hands, for example, are there. So to work on that regularly is very important. So you can say that everything that I was doing, both that which was fixed in time during each day, as also those things which were not fixed, which were quite flexible, but still also I would spend quite a lot of time on them, they really were working all together on all the koshas. No? Some things were done for the physical. No? I was also, for example, taking ashwagandha, which is a very good food supplement, bringing more energy to the body and building more tissue, actually, because I was quite thin. I was actually also making sure to eat quite a lot, which is not something which is normally associated with the retreat. Fasting is more associated, but in my case, fasting was out of the question because I was really too thin. So I was, on the contrary, eating quite a lot, but making sure that it did not disturb my practice, no? And then taking some food supplements, which would also help me to further strengthen my body, no? So, and then there is the energetic part, which is mostly through the breathing and the walking and all these things. And then there is the mental part, which is mostly through the meditation, but also the singing, the nature, pratyahar, the input of the senses. And then also, of course, on the subconscious level, a lot was being done through the meditation, through the fire rituals, and some of the other practices I've been doing. So, and in that way, after 1 month, okay, then I felt ready again to face the world on one side, no, to start working a little bit more. Time for holiday was finished. And also then to face some of those things in myself which I felt needed a change, which I felt needed some evaluation. And I can just say that it went much more easy than I thought, precisely because I kept away from it for about a month and really did not let it bother me, you know. Otherwise, if there's something inside of you which you don't really like, it'll bother you every day, maybe every hour of every day. It'll come to your mind and it'll like take away your self-confidence and take away your peace and take away your good feeling. So it's very important to be able to say for some time, to set it aside and not get into it. And first of all, develop your light. Develop your light before you go into this darkness. And sure, these things are there. In every one of us, I think we can find some frustration, some anger, some fear, some negative thinking about ourselves, and it all has a source. And so there can be a time where then you feel, okay, now let's dig into it. But this should happen in positive way. This should always happen in a way that that illusion which you're really trying to address, is dissolved by the light and not made even bigger than it is, which is what I see many people are doing. So in that way, I think you can say that I could work on it, and I'm not saying that everything was resolved. Some things just do have to wait. We have to be patient in our own spiritual development and not want to, let's say, manu militari, remove everything inside of us that we don't like. Some things we just have to accept that they are there and not so easy to remove. And that does not mean the work stops. No, it will go on, but we take our time for it. And we keep on loving ourselves. We keep on loving ourselves, like in the book Love Your Ego. It's about loving your individual self, however pitiful it may sometimes seem, but still loving it, understanding it for what it is, as this little child who's growing up and slowly, releasing things and becoming closer to the light. But as I said, for that, the light really, it has to be there. And so that was the second part, which was more a normal way of life, but I kept the same schedule. The only thing which changed was my free time now no longer was free. So there was much less walking in nature, much less singing, much less guitar playing, much less of all that, because that time now was taken by the work that I started doing again. But the rest of the schedule, the morning, the meditation, the asana, the pranayama, and the ritual in the evening, I kept it. And that was also a very good experience, actually, to see that by keeping such a rather strict and intense schedule, I could still do the work and I could, do it in a much better way, being, let's say, less affected by whatever was happening there in the work. And yeah, that also certainly, made the work more efficient. So now that I'm in this new place and I'm basically out of this retreat, I am more or less doing the same. Not exactly like the fire ritual in the evening, I have not yet done because I still have to set up this tent for making the fire. But even when it's set up, I am not going to do 2 hours of fire ritual every day, because that's really quite a lot of time that in this way get lost. But I'll find some other deal with myself, how often I will be doing it, and then I'll stick to that and I'll be fine. But the morning meditation, it has not changed. The asana pranayam, it has not changed. Because I feel, even though now I have less time and I have to work hard to come by, really at this moment it's not easy with this lockdown. But so I have to do it. But I'm still keeping that schedule because I feel that's making everything so much more efficient. And in that way, I don't think, like, let's say, economically speaking, that's a bad idea. No, I really think the contrary, and I'm sticking to that. So that is then maybe some little example for you people who are also working hard. I'm sure some of you are, and you don't have a lot of time. I can only say from this and also many other experiences before, but certainly from the experience here, that to combine work with some serious sadhana is the best way to go forward. And even though it'll be a fight to kind of find that time and protect that time also from other people, maybe in your family or whatever, who are trying to steal it from you, fight for it, protect it, because it'll help you in so many ways the rest of the day. Now, this is the old story about being serious for a short time so that you are more light and more, spiritual and peaceful and not so serious the rest of the day. This is the thing I've been saying for many, many years. For those who have been following the YouTube classes, that's very clear. But so I can only confirm it. And now that I'm in this new Vanprast phase, that is called, that's really also what I intend to do. And basically, it means that the largest part of the morning is not for work. Yeah, that's but okay, I have to add to that when I do the healings, etc., it takes me usually till 8:30 or something before I'm done. So I work quite late actually in the evening, but before 12 at noon I don't work. I only do meditation and some practical work, let's say in the house, some cleaning or whatever is needed. But also the asana, the pranayam, taking good care of myself. That is now part of it, and I don't think it'll go away. It'll change. Everything changes, but it'll be basically the same. So I don't know. Improv lectures, they start, they end. I think this ends it more or less. What I've been wanting to say, and the main thing really that I want to say to everybody is, whatever you feel inside you is not good, don't concentrate on it so much. It's not very important actually. It'll go quite by itself, or maybe with a little nudging, a little therapy, a little healing, maybe a little work. It will go. If you can devote some time to yourself and to your inner light and to your inner gentleness, which I'm sure you all have, and from this gentleness, from this sweetness that you find inside, when then you look at these things, then it becomes very easy to forgive. Then it becomes very easy to forget. then it becomes very easy to let go. But if you're all, like overwhelmed by it and impressed by it, that's the word really I was looking for already the whole time. I feel people are so much impressed by their own egos. And they should not be, because the ego is a very natural thing, is a very normal thing. And all these things, all these problems, in a way, they are very normal and very natural. And they are part of a process of growth. And that's what you have to believe in. And that's what you have to stimulate. And that you do by developing those things which are taught to us since many ages by the yogic scriptures. No? What to do. Very, very clearly, if you read the yogic scriptures, they don't talk about the dark night of the soul or the shadow work is now a very popular term, the shadow work and all these things. I'm not saying none of this has to be done. Don't misunderstand. Sometimes, yes, sure, we have to look at these things because they may be more complicated than, we think. But that should not be the main thing. The main thing should be believing what is inside of you, developing what is inside of you, sharing what is inside of you. That is the main thing. And the other things, then they kind of disappear.
Vashnamali Kai Vishnamala Yogami Navainami Kavainami Kalashtami Kaveshashnamala Shivainami Odaka Vina Mila Shivalama Kai Vinamala Tikalamala Yogi Mala Kai Vina Shala Kai Vina Kavina Kavina Lakamata Jivo Mata Kai Niho Lata Kavina Mata Yogi Maini Kaishni Mina Modai Kavani Kamaini Shnaka Vishnamala Kavishnamala Yom Ashtaki Vashtaki Vishnamala Kevinamala Hainami Kavainami Lokaidi Kaishni Mata Yoga Mishta Shivashtamali Kai Vishnamali Kai Mastamili Shivalamali Hai Kai Nami Vodami Kai Umalati Vishnamala Kai Vishnamala Yogali Vainami Kalimi Aishnami Ashtakaya Nami Kolimi Kishnamala Vaishnami Komainami Hey Mata Kali Meshavi Shamaliki Vaidamahi Yogali Kaini Malakaveni Misho Kailami Ainamai Dekinamala Ekinamala Nisholashtami Vashnami Kavishnamala Yoga Maini Kasashnami Kainami Ashnamali Vainami Kovainami Alamata Yobali Shevi Ulastaki Vashnamali Oh Ainami Kavina Malakaini Kaishin Maiti Kali Vaiti Kavina Malakavi Shashnamala Ainami Oh Yo Ali Vali Gola Matiki Vala Yo Hali Maini Bastamala Kavina Malaka Venami Shishnamala Kavishamala O Bari Hu Kadimi Yo Kali Maini Vashta Kavina Mala Kavina Mala Yo Bala Vaishnami Kavi Lasta Kavi Naini Kavi Kata Kavi Lata Yo Kali Vaishishtamana Kavi Namata Samishtamala Kavi Namala Kavi Namala Kevala Kevala Shivo Yogi Vainami Kashmi Kashmi Ravanami Yakaini Kevarisha Gainami Gavanami Ulamatai Ulamatai Kishmi Davanami Uvanami Gavanami Takaini Shmi Kavanami Yoga Meni Mala Taka Veni Mala Kavina Mala Kevina Mala Shivulata Yoga Limeni Oshi Kaila Moite Kevina Mashtaka Vishna Mala Yo Kenami Damhari Yo Bali Kashmira Kavinama Yoga Deki Taka Shivo Masti Shake Lenami Kavishamala Vaishnami Kavinamala Yaki Deki Shnamala Veni Veni Amy Tati Kulami Shtami Kavinamala Yaki Daini Takalimi Vikalamata Yoka Veni Kikalamata Shevinamata Yakali Mani Mata Yakali Mani Mata Oh Hari Mata Vitakavina Ishyakali Vainami Hatam Yumbashtiki Vashtala Kainami Haidamata Kainamata Takilamata Sakalamata Te Vishna Kainami Ho Kainami Vaishnami Taka Yo Kaini Kaili Vainami Kashnamali Kavi Namastata Kalamada Ho Kai Vishnamala Yaki Vaini Ho Yaki Vaini Ho Makakali Shaiki Namata Vainami Tala Vainami Kala Asastamana Odaki Namina Ho Shishnamala Shishnamala Kavinamala Shishnamala Kavinamala 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 Mata Kavina Shiva Shiva Mali Kavinamala Kavinamala Takalamala Tukalamala Shakinamala Kalamala Takalamala Vaini Ha Shiva Shiva Heiki Mata Kali Kavina Mastaka Vishnamala Kavishnamala Kai La Mata Dikava Yoki Meila Dasha Kava Kaigi Kikemi Vastamali Vastamali Kai Vastamali Yo Kamina Lata Ve Kamina Mala Hainami Ko Vashtami Ta Vashtami O Kai Lila Lila Maila Kavina Mala Sastamala Tekina Mala Vashtamala O Ali Kaveni Mata Kivo Sa Lokavina Mata Kainami Mata Yo